to my channel GoDigit. Today in this video we will learn about query object, right? Query object is not something which you can cover in a one video. So I am planning to make a series out of it so that gradually we will understand every aspect of the query object. Okay, so query object, if you guys understand, you can understand it like this, that it is a translated version of what we see in the SQL server, right? In the SQL server we have a language called SQL or SQL, through which we run certain commands directly on the database, and through just one select command we get the complete data set of what we actually require, right? So the same concept we can apply through the query object in the AL language, and thus it, when we write one query here, system, what Business Central do is that it translated into the select query and run it in the BCDB and give us the complete set of records, whether the 1,000, 10,000, lakhs, whatever number it could be. It gives all sorts of data, all that set, large set of data, in just one, with one just select command only. So in that manner it is very fast. If you use the query object, the performance will be very good, rather than you write a certain code in the AL language and then try to get the output out of it. Okay, so let's understand what query is. So I am currently having one project. So let me create one file here, name it as testquery.al. Okay, so now let me use the snippet. You can see that currently it is showing me snippet query and query of type API. Okay, so there are two types of API, two types of query. One is the normal query and second one is the API query. So with normal query, we can play around in the Business Central, but with the API type of query, we can use the concept of OData, web services, and publish the data which we want out of the Business Central into the other softwares as well, like Power BI, or I mean, the possibilities are endless. Okay, so because when you want to share your data or when you want to do some integration with the Business Central, with other softwares, so in that sense you this type of API will definitely comes in use, and then this query of type API we can use to generate a set of output which we want to share with the other technologies. So this time, because as I said that I'm gonna make certain series of videos in the query object, so we will learn definitely what is API query. But just from the beginning perspective, let's learn what exactly the normal API is. So here I am gonna select this snippet here, and it gives me this kind of uh, complete structure of the query. So let's give my query an ID here, and let's name it as item quantity. Okay, or let's say item remaining quantity. Fine. Now as soon as you give it a name, this section is called the properties of the query. So you can see by default the query type is normal, because we are making a normal type of query. Okay, now let's see the other properties. Here we have all the other properties which we can use based on our requirement. We will learn definitely about everything. Access, we already know that if we want to set the accessibility of this query object, so we can set it out either as a public or internal or whatever it is based on our requirement. Okay, I can set it as public so that it could be visible to other developers as well whenever they want to develop an extension for my tenant. Okay, now one of the important property is called query category. Okay, so this property is very important from the output perspective. Okay, because you're developing a query and you want to see the results out of it. Okay, so this property is very handy. Here what we can do is that we have to mention the name of the pages on which my query I can get the results of my query. Okay, I can view the results of my query. So to view it, I need the reference of the list pages. Okay, so that's why we have to mention the name of the list pages here against which I can view the results or the output of my query. Okay, so it's not like that you can mention only one list page, you can mention multiple list pages as well. Okay, so I am mentioning here the two list pages called customer list and item list on which I could see my query and run it. Okay, then one of the other query is that top number of rows. Okay, as the name suggests, if you really want like maybe your query is having thousands of records but you want only first 10 records or first 5 records or something like that, so you can make the use of this property as well. Okay, so right now I don't want this. I want all the data which I am really looking forward for it, so I don't want to use this. But in case you have a requirement to generate the list of top 10 customers who are who are buying goods from you, or you want a list of top 10 vendors whom you paid a lot from in the last month, so you make the use of this property. Okay, so this is ideal set of properties which we can use in the query object. Okay, so once you're done with the properties, let's come into this section called elements. In the elements, element comprises of what your query will hold. Okay, so your query the properties or the parameters which you can use in the elements are like, first of all is the data item. Okay, of course the data item is the with data item we mean that we need to mention the source of the data, which is table in our business central case. So here we can mention the table against which I want to generate some type of results. Okay, so I'm mentioning here item ledger entry. Okay, so I want some data from the item ledger entry. Now the second thing is the column. Okay, of course the set of columns which you want from your query. Okay, so let's use the columns I want, of course, item number, so I can use that. Okay, let me add another column, which in case let it be let's say I want the sum of remaining quantity. Okay, so let's use remaining quantity, and I'll name the column as sum of quantity. All right, so it will give me the sum of the quantities or the remaining quantity column. Okay, now the third thing is filter. So although it is not very much important that you have to use it, but the thing is, if we use this filter and I can add certain fields here like posting date. Okay, so when I set any field in the filter section, so this means that this field will not be visible on my query results, but while writing the code I can while if I want to filter out certain records based on the AL code, so we can do that using this filter only. So for example, I can now use set range or set filter on this field if I want to make some changes in the results of my query. Okay, if you don't use this filter and don't add any sort of fields here, so in that scenario you cannot add set range or set filter on your query columns. Okay, so you have to add this filter and add some certain fields against which you want to add some filters. Okay, so if you see here, we have one trigger available in the query called on before open. So that's what I'm saying, that in case you want to write certain filters, then you via AL code, then you have to use this filter things. Okay, so I can write down here like set filter. Okay, and then on the posting date, I can write, see, right now only three columns are available: item number, posting date, and sum of quantity, right? Why? Because only these three columns are available in this data item which I have added. You cannot add the set filter or set range on any other field of the item ledger entry. If you want, then you must have to add it either as a column or either as a filter. And I have already told you the difference between the column and the filter is that this filter, I mean, whatever field you have, you will add in this section, it will not be visible on the query results. Okay, so that is the use of this column, of this filter, and of course the on before open trigger, right? So that's the thing. I don't want to add any filter here, so I am not writing any sort of code here. Now, one of the important property from the column perspective is called column filter. Okay, so column filter means that here I can add certain filters on this column just to make some changes in the output. So for example, we know that maybe there are certain items in the item ledger entry which could generate which does not hold any quantity there. Okay, so I don't want to show the zero output in my results. So what I can do here is that I can add column filter, then I can choose the column which is sum of quantity in my case, then filter, and then greater than 0, right? So this is how I can set the column filter, that I want to only those columns which have the sum of quantity greater than 0. I don't want the 0 concept in my results. Okay, so that is the normal way of writing a normal type of query. Okay, so now we are done with the query part. Let's see how I can access it via AL code. Okay, so I will tell you both the things. First of all, let's say I'll create one file here, and let me do one thing. I add the page, let's say test page dot al. Okay, and here what I can do, that I add t page extension. Okay, and let me do one thing. My extension item ledger extension, it will extend the page, let's say customer. Sorry, let me change the name of my page extension as customer ext. Okay, I don't want any layout, of course. I just want to add one action through which we will see how we can write the AL code to access this query. So let's say add after, and then we can use any, let's say I use the bank accounts, then action, the name, test query, caption, query results, application area as all, trigger on action, begin, end. And of course I need to add one variable, so I'll add that, name it as test query, and the name of my query is item remaining quantity, so I'll add that, item remaining quantity. All right, so now let's see, although we have already written the code of the what we want from our query, so we can run this query and get the output as what we want. But from the code perspective, let's say you're writing some code and in your code unit, and you want exactly the same output which this query is generating. Okay, so rather than you add a new variable and then set range, item ledger entry and all that stuff, so rather than doing that thing, we can just make the use of this query and get the results one by one from this query and use it in our whatever process we are building. Okay, so let's see how we can access the results of this query via AL code. Okay, so before that I made some mistake that I have not used this property called method, because here I want the sum of uh, the remaining quantity of my item. Okay, so let me add this as sum here. So because we know that we are writing query, so we will get the distinct results of all the items. Okay, so let's say item ledger entry has 10 lines of one item. Okay, so this query will give me only one line of that item and the sum of all those 10 lines against that remaining quantity column. So that's why, just to get the sum of the multiple lines, so I can make the use of this property called method as sum. There are other aggregate function as well which we can use based on like whatever our requirement is, like average, count, day, max, min, month, sum, year, whatever it is. So I can make the use of sum and it will give me the results accordingly. Okay, so let's go to our page here and our actions. So first of all, because my data can be generated only when I run the query. Okay, so how I can do that stuff is that now I can write if test query dot open. So I need to open my query. Okay, then while test query dot read do begin. So see what I'm doing here, I'm opening my query, then I used the while loop just to get the results of the query one by one, and then I can do my stuff whatever I want to. So here in my case I just want to see the what the results my query is generating. So let's say %1 and %2 here, test query dot item number, test query dot sum of quantity. Okay, then I can close my query. So that's all. That's what code you need to write whenever you want to play with the results of your query one by one. Okay, so first we open the query, then we read the query, and just to read the query one by one for all the results we use the while loop, and then once I'm done with everything I can close my query. Okay, here you can write down all sorts of code which whatever it is based on your requirement. Here I want just to check out the output one by one, that what it is generating. So that's why I've written this message here. So I'm done with this. I'm done with the AL code. I'm done with the query. So let's see the output of the query. Okay, first of all we will see whether my query is available on these pages or not. Then we will see another way of checking the results of the query via URL. And the third thing is that we will see the results of this AL code, how it is matching up with my actual query results. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's build the project and let's deploy the project. So now we will see the three things. Okay, one by one. First of all, we will see the actions here, customer list, item list, and then let's see. So let me close here. Let me close this tab as well. So yeah, so my page is opened up now. So I'm currently on my customer page. So just to check the use of this query category, because I've used the query category property to add my query on these pages. So let's see where they are. In the customer page, when you click on this link, you will see your query right here. Okay, so I can run this and I can see the output as item number and the sum of quantity. So you can see that my items are unique in nature. It is not repeating itself, and whatever number of quantities are there in the item ledger entry, system just sum them all and give me only one set of data. Okay, so this is the thing. Now if I want to see that whether this query is available in my items page as well, so I can go to the items. This is my item list page. So here you can see that the column of customers all and all that stuff is not showing up here. Okay, so the output, the query is available in the item list under this section called smart list. Okay, so when you click here, you will see your query available here. So when you run this, you can see that it is available here as well. All the things, right? So my output or my query is available in both customer list page, item list page, because I have added them via query category property. Okay, there is one more way of accessing the query, is that what I can do, I can write down in the URL. I can make some changes in the URL, like ampersand query is equal to the ID of your query. Okay, so when you run this, it will give you the same results which we have seen from the customer page and the item page. Okay, see, right? So now you can see that I have this results 1896 as 4, 5, 3, 10, 8 and something like that. So now we have seen that this query is working and this query category is working. It is giving me the same results. Okay, now let's see the use of this AL code. So for that, let me go to the customers and then customer, need to check where it is. I've added that in my customer list only. So it should be available after the bank account. So it is not there. Let me see more options. So functions related customer, here it is, after the bank account query results. So now if I click on this, you can see that it is giving me one by one every result. So first line, then second line, then third line, then fourth, then fifth, and so on. So it is giving me the same set of data one by one, which if I want, I can pick this one record and then process something, then pick the second record, then process something via AL code. So this is the way how that AL code is working and giving me the results one by one using the while loop, right? So this is the way of writing the code in AL if you want to make the use of query object. Okay, so that's all in the today's video, where I wanted to tell you about the basic architecture of the query and how we can access it, and then if I want to access the results of the query one by one using the AL code, so how to do that as well. Okay, so that's all I wanted to cover in the part 1 of the video. I hope you understand the basic concepts of the query now. In the next week we will learn something more in the query, like if we could do something more better with the query, we will learn about it. So till then, goodbye guys. I hope you like the video. In case you like the video, please hit the like button and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video.